The long day. Suraj was awakened by the sound of his mother busying herself in the kitchen. He lay in bed looking through the open window at the sky getting lighter and the dawn pushing its way into the room. He knew there was something important about this new day, but for some time he could not remember what it was. Then, as the room cleared, his mind cleared. His school report would be arriving in the post. Suraj knew he had failed. The class teacher had told him so, but his mother would only know of it when she read the report, and Suraj did not want to be in the house when she received it. He was sure it would be arriving today. So he had told his mother that he would be having his midday meal with his friend Somi, who was not even in town at the moment and would be home only for the evening meal. By that time, he hoped his mother would have recovered from the shock. He was glad his father was away on tour. He slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen. His mother was surprised to see him up so early. I am going for a walk, Ma, he said, and then I will go to Somi's house. Well, have your bath first and put something in your stomach. Suraj went to the tap in the courtyard and took a quick bath. He put on a clean shirt and shorts. Carelessly, he brushed his thick curly hair, knowing he could not bring much order to its wildness. Then he gulped down a glass of milk and hurried out of the house. The postman wouldn't arrive for a couple of hours, but Suraj felt that the earliest his start, the better. His mother was surprised and pleased to see him up and about so early. Suraj was out on the Maidan and still the sun had not risen. The Maidan was an open area of grass about 100 square meters, and from the middle of it could be seen the mountains, range upon range from them, stepping into the sky. A game of football was in progress, and one of the players called out to Suraj to join them. Suraj said he would not play for more than 10 minutes because he had some business to attend to. He kicked off his chappals and ran barefoot after the ball. Everyone was playing barefoot. It was an informal game, and the players were of all ages and sizes, from bearded 6 to small boys of 6 or 7. Suraj ran all over the place without actually getting in touch with the ball. He was not much good at football and finally got into a scramble before the goal, fell and scratched his knee. He retired from the game even sooner than he had intended. The scratch was not bad, but there was some blood on the knee. He wiped it clean with his handkerchief and limped off the Maidan. He went in the direction of the railway station, but not through the bazaar. He went by way of the canal, which came from the foot of the nearest mountain, flowed through the town and down to the river. Beside the canal were the washerwomen scrubbing and beating out clothes on the stone banks. The canal was only a meter wide, but due to recent rain, the current was swift and noisy. Suraj stood on the bank watching the rush of water. There was an inlet at one place, and here some children were bathing and some were rushing up and down the bank wearing nothing at all, shouting to each other in high spirits. Suraj felt like taking a dip too, but he did not know any of the children here. Most of them were from very poor families. Hands in pocket, he walked along the canal banks. The sun had risen and was pouring through the branches of the trees that lined the road. The leaves made shadowy patterns on the ground. Suraj tried hard not to think of his school report, but he knew that at any moment now the postman would be handing over a long brown envelope to his mother. He tried to imagine his mother's expression when she read the report, but the more he tried to picture her face, the more certain he was that on knowing his result, she would show no expression at all. And having no expression on her face was much worse than having one. Suraj heard the whistle of a train and knew he was not far from the station. He cut through a field, climbed a hillock, and ran down the slope until he was near the railway track. Here came the train, screeching and puffing. In the distance, a big black beetle, and then, when the carriages swung into sight, a centipede. Suraj stood a good 20 meters away from the lines on the slope of the hill. As the train passed, he pulled the handkerchief off his knee and began to wave it furiously. There was something about passing trains that filled him with awe and excitement. All those passengers with mysterious lives and mysterious destinations were people he wanted to know, people whose mysteries he wanted to unfold. He had been in a train recently when his parents had taken him to bathe in the sacred river Ganga at Haridwar. He wished he could be in a train now, or better still, be an engine driver with no more books and teachers and school reports. He did not know of any 13-year-old engine drivers, but he saw himself driving the engine, shouting orders to the stoker. It made him feel powerful to be in control of a mighty steam engine. Someone, another boy, returned his wave, and the two waved at each other for a few seconds, and then the train had passed, its smoke spiraling backwards. Suraj felt a little lonely now. Somehow, the passing of the train left him with a feeling of being alone in a wide, empty world. He was feeling hungry too. He went back to the field where he had seen some lychee trees, climbed into one of them, and began plucking and peeling and eating the juicy red skinned fruit. No one seemed to own the lychee trees because, although a dog appeared below and began barking, no one else appeared. Suraj kept spitting lychee seeds at the dog, and the dog kept barking at him. Eventually, the dog lost interest and slunk off. Suraj began to feel drowsy in the afternoon heat. The lychee trees offered a lot of shade below, so he came down from the tree and sat on the grass, his back resting against the tree trunk. A myna bird came hopping up to his feet and looked at him curiously, its head to one side. Insects kept buzzing around Suraj. He swiped at them once or twice, but then could not make the effort to keep swiping. He opened his shirt buttons. The air was very hot, very still. The only sound was the faint buzzing of the insects. His head fell forward on his chest. He opened his eyes to find himself being shaken and looked up into the round, cheerful face of his friend Ramji. "What are you doing? Sleeping here?" asked Ramji, who was a couple of years younger than Suraj. "Have you run away from home?" "Not yet," said Suraj. "And what are you doing here?" "Came for lychees." "So did I." They sat together for a while and talked and ate lychees. Then Ramji suggested that they visit the bazaar to eat fried pakoras. "I haven't any money," said Suraj. "That doesn't matter," said Ramji, who always seemed to be in funds. "I have 2 rupees." So they walked to the bazaar. They crossed the field, walked back past the canal, skirted the Maidan, came to the clock tower, and entered the bazaar. The evening crowd had just begun to fill the road, and there was a lot of bustle and noise. The street vendors called their wares in high, strident voices. Children shouted, and women bargained. There was a medley of smells and aromas coming from the little restaurants and sweet shops, and a medley of colors in the bangle and kite shops. Suraj and Ramji ate their pakoras, felt thirsty, and gazed at the rows and rows of colored bottles at the cold drinks shop. Here, at least 10 varieties of sweet, sticky, fizzy drinks were available. But they had already finished the 2 rupees, so there was nothing for them to do but quench their thirst at the municipal tap. Afterwards, they wandered down the crowded street, examining the shop fronts, commenting on the passers-by, and every now and then greeting some friend or acquaintance. Darkness came on suddenly, and then the bazaar was lit up. The big shops with bright electric and neon lights, the street vendors with oil lamps. The bazaar at night was even more exciting than during the day. They traversed the bazaar from end to end, and when they were at the clock tower again, Ramji said he had to go home and left Suraj. It was nearing Suraj's dinner time, and so, unwillingly, he too turned homewards. He did not want it to appear that he was deliberately staying out late because of the school report. The lights were on in the front room when he got home. He waited outside, secure in the darkness of the veranda, watching the lighted room. His mother would be waiting for him. She would probably have the report in her hand or on the kitchen shelf, and she would have lots and lots of questions to ask him. All the cares of the world seemed to descend on Suraj as he crept into the house. "You are late," said his mother. "Come and have your food." Suraj said nothing but removed his shoes outside the kitchen and sat down cross legged on the kitchen floor, which was where he took his meals. He was tired and hungry. He no longer cared about anything. "One of your class fellows dropped in," said his mother. "He said your reports were sent out today. They will arrive tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Suraj felt a great surge of relief. But then, just as suddenly, his spirits fell again. Tomorrow. A further postponement of the dread moment. Another night and another morning, something would have to be done about it. "Ma," he said abruptly, "Somi has asked me to his house again tomorrow." "I don't know how his mother puts up with you so often," said Suraj's mother. Suraj lay awake in bed, planning the tomorrow's activities. A game of cricket or football on the Maidan, perhaps a dip in the canal, a half hour watching the trains thunder past, and in the evening, an hour in the bazaar among the kites and balloons and rose colored fizzy drinks and round dripping syrupy sweets. Perhaps in the morning he could persuade his mother to give him 2 or 3 rupees. It would be his last rupees for quite some time. Soon he fell asleep. Thank you for listening. Now, some word power. His mother was surprised and pleased to see him up and about so early. Up and about means active again, especially after ill or rest. Suraj kept spitting lychee seeds at the dog, and the dog kept barking at him. Eventually, the dog lost interest and slunk off. SLUNK, slunk, OFF off. Slunk off means to walk away quietly so that you are not noticed. So they walked to the bazaar. They crossed the field, walked back past the canal, skirted the Maidan, came to the clock tower, and entered the bazaar. SKIRT, skirt something. Skirt something means to go around the edge of something. The evening crowd had just begun to fill the road, and there was a lot of bustle and noise. The street vendors called their wares in high, strident voices. Strident voice means a voice that is harsh, insistent, and discordant. There was a medley of smells and aromas coming from the little restaurants and sweet shops. MEDLEY, medley of smells and aromas. Medley means a mixture of different things. All the cares of the world seemed to descend on Suraj as he crept into the house. Cares of the world means the everyday stress of life that can distract people from their purpose. Ma, he said abruptly, Somi has asked me to his house again tomorrow. I don't know how his mother puts up with you so often, said Suraj's mother. Put up with somebody means to tolerate someone without complaining. Thank you very much.